The Dark Secrets of King Solomon, written and published by Books Reader. Introduction. They called him the wisest man to have ever walked the earth. A God-anointed king, blessed with divine insight and tasked with erecting the first temple, a doorway between the heavens and earth. But wisdom pushed to its limit becomes something else again. In the background of King Solomon's golden throne is a path of questions they won't answer and mysteries they did not prefer to keep in the light. How did this man so blessed by the gods come to be consumed by spirit, symbols, and sacred geometry? Why do occult writings, grimoires, and magical traditions on different continents link their lineage to his name? And what did he look upon or conjure to transform a servant of God into a master of secret power? Not the Solomon from Sunday school. This is the Solomon who conversed with angels and chained demons, the monarch who wore a ring that was said to command the unseen. The constructor of a temple bursting with adoration, as well as ritual. Underneath the crown, there was a man treading a razor's blade between light and darkness. Unleashing the laws of heaven while courting the forces of the abyss. If you've ever sensed that great things always have a price to pay, if you've ever asked yourself why knowledge once forbidden always comes back, then what you're about to learn will not surprise you. It will awaken you. The story of King Solomon was never just about wisdom. It was about power and the darkness that always comes to claim it. Lesson 1: The Rise of Solomon, chosen by God, crowned by mystery. Long ago in the ancient land of Israel, there came a time when the people needed a wise and powerful king. This is the way Solomon the son of David started on the path to the throne. Solomon was not the oldest son and most people questioned why he should be chosen, but God's favor had a lot to do with his ascension. Right from the start, it appeared that Solomon was destined for greatness. Solomon's father, King David, had a vision and it was apparent to him that Solomon would be the next king. As a youth, Solomon was characterized by his wise heart and his desire to hear. He asked for wisdom over riches or authority. And due to this unselfish petition, God granted him unparalleled intelligence and understanding. Numerous individuals flocked from far and wide to listen to his sage advice and behold his kingdom. It was as if Solomon was born to rule with an intuitive grasp of the mystery of the universe. Yet, there was something else to Solomon's tale beyond wisdom. There was an aura of mystery surrounding his rise. People hushed about the omens and portents that indicated Solomon's coming reign. Some thought it was the doing of forces beyond sight, propelling him to rule the people. It caused them to wonder if there was something mystical about his reign, a power linking him to a destiny bigger than any common king. In our own lives, we look for opportunities and question about our fates. We ponder the way the universe functions, seeking to identify the opportunities that present themselves before us. We learn from Solomon's life the need to remain open to the possibilities. We can make our dreams and wishes come true by having faith in a greater design and applying our wisdom to steer. As Solomon came to power, he proved that a strong self-belief and eagerness to take directions from above can accomplish much. It was not merely a matter of magic or fate that the mists of mystery surrounded his ascension. They also demonstrated how trust and intuition can result in incredible odysseys. As with Solomon, so can we discover our way to success and fulfillment by cultivating the wisdom within. Lesson 2: The Temple and the Throne, where heaven and earth met. The Temple of Solomon is among the most important and enigmatic buildings in history. It was a physical edifice constructed out of wood and stone, but as well a spiritual icon where heaven and earth converged. Built on Mount Moriah, the temple was a glorious manifestation of faith and divine presence. To the Israelites, it was a religious center and place of sacrifice, a point at which they could reach out to God. Solomon's dream for the temple was monumental. It was to be a place of dwelling for the divine, a manifestation of the power and glory of the God he worshipped. The expertise and manpower needed to construct the temple were enormous. Trained artisans of different countries were brought together by one person's vision to bring forth a hallowed space. This union of such individualized crafts and resources is symbolic of how two or more different forces can be blended together to create something beyond the sum of their individual elements. Such was the concept behind the law of attraction, where what one perceives, believes, and wishes can create something extraordinary in their lives. But the temple was not just a wonder of architecture. It was a bridge between the spiritual and material worlds. Its holiness was in its dual nature, a physical structure planted firmly in the ground with stone foundations, but simultaneously, it was directed towards the divine. The union of heaven and earth through the temple has profound symbolism when interpreted in relation to attraction and creation. This is similar to the idea that when a person's mind and objectives reflect divine purpose, things that seem impossible are made possible. For Solomon, the temple was also a throne. Not literally, but spiritually, it affirmed his status as a king blessed by divine favor. It emphasized his charge and duty, and in so many ways, a physical representation of his governance and wisdom. The building, in other words, was both his legacy and his inspiration, reminding him and his people of the connection they were supposed to have with the divine. Drawn from Solomon's temple, establishing sacred spaces within our own lives calls forth personal evolution. These are not necessarily physical spaces, but possibly mental or emotional spaces where we cultivate positive thoughts and beliefs. Similar to the temple, these areas are where one's desires meet the flow of abundance from the universe. By creating intentions and an environment of positivity and thanks, one may foster the bringing in of positive results and experience. Solomon was aware of the value of meshing the worldly with the spiritual, and it's something we can learn. As we build the temples of our lives, we need to recall to allow our dreams and aspirations fill the space between our terrestrial endeavors and our higher selves. And through the union of these, the energies we expend can actually create change and development, so that heaven and earth come together in our own self. Lesson 3, Ring of Power, Legends of Commanding Angels and Demons. In the traditional stories handed down through the ages, there is a legendary story of King Solomon having a magical ring that gave him the ability to command both the angels and the demons. This powerful artifact was reported to possess great supernatural powers, placing Solomon not only as a sage king but as a master over the realms beyond human understanding. The tales tell of a complex design that incorporates a pentagram, a strong symbol usually invoked in protection and deterrent abilities, particularly against evil forces. The ring was said to have been given to Solomon by a divine force that allowed him to summon spirits at will to assist in his enormous work, such as building his magnificent temple. Such stories create an aura of enchantment and intrigue as they present a picture of a king who exercised both religious and temporal power. By virtue of the ring, Solomon allegedly had discussions with entities from other levels of reality, and his orders were executed in obedience, bestowing on him unparalleled wisdom and insight. This mythology of Solomon's ring serves to illustrate the deep belief in objects that possess power or knowledge, reinforcing a theme of control and influence that runs throughout his life. It implies that through sheer will and desire and with the assistance of this magical artifact, Solomon was able to access forces unseen and shape the world around him to his benefit. Although these stories can be categorized under myth and legend, they give us a glimpse at an underlying reality. Faith has the power to empower. Solomon's tale demonstrates how belief in oneself and the means at one's command can propel their potential, expressing real power in their lives. The ring acts as a metaphor for leveraging one's inner power through belief and intent. It represents the human desire to pursue and tap into power, whether spiritual or material, in order to fulfill one's wishes and triumph over adversity. Referring to personal empowerment and the law of attraction, this mythic ring stands for tools and symbols we desire to utilize our own special talents. By establishing clear intentions and trusting our ability to fulfill our desires, we, along with Solomon, can control our own fate, constructing the life we dream of. The myths of Solomon's ring call us to accept our abilities and apply them constructively, knowing that the largest powers may reside within us. The myth of Solomon's ring, therefore, calls us to consider how we both see and exercise our own authority and power. It implies that just like Solomon was thought to have dominated angels and demons through a tiny but potent artifact, we too have the ability to craft our own destiny with the power of intention, belief, and the individual symbols of power we choose to adopt. Lesson 4, The Seal of Solomon, a Portal to Supernatural Powers. In the history of mystical tradition, few symbols are as fascinating and powerful as the Seal of Solomon. This symbol, being most commonly found in the form of an intricate star or hexagram, is believed to have given King Solomon control over the world of spirits, with the ability to interact with and command both demons and angels. The seal has captivated human imagination and potential over centuries, giving rise to speculation regarding its origins and potential. Myths surround how Solomon ever acquired this powerful seal. Some myths point to divine providence, as the sign was said to have been sent to him from above, a sign of appointed power over the paranormal. Its elaborate design is said to symbolize the conflation of terrestrial and celestial powers, reflecting the great wisdom of Solomon's dynasty, where he reconciled humanity's aspiration and the heavens' guidance. Seen by some as a symbol for an instrument of unequaled might, Solomon's seal was more than a symbol of authority. It was a key that opened the path to worlds unseen. Men believed that Solomon, empowered by this seal, might call forth creatures from other worlds, summon the help of angels, and command lesser spirits to obey his every command. It is this powerful potential for crossing over from the natural bounds that connects the seal so closely with the idea of the law of attract. With Solomon's tale, we discover that our perceptions and what we think about have the power to create our reality, and symbols are great tools in this process of transformation. Symbols such as the Seal of Solomon, it is said, contain deep meanings and energies. They serve as focal points to bring upon forces beyond ourselves, allowing us to access reservoirs of potential that lie hidden without them. They become portals not just to outside powers but to our own inner strengths and wisdom as well. By knowing and working with such symbols, individuals discover means to access energies and affirmations that resonate with their wants and intentions. Drawing symbols into everyday life can be a powerful means of aligning intentions and bringing about one's desires. Just as Solomon might have done, it is possible to utilize personal symbols, talismans, or affirmations to channel energy and intention, be it by a drawing, a piece of jewelry, or a mantra. The objects and words can be imbued with individual power when they are imbued with belief and intention. In the mystical shadow of Solomon's seal is a call to discover the relationship between symbols and our subconscious mind. To realize symbols as means of energy and intention can be a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. By engaging with the mystical symbols of the past, such as the Seal of Solomon, we are not only communicating with their history but with the unlimited potential they hold. Doing this, we can suddenly be tapped into sources of strength we never knew existed with the help of Solomon himself from ancient times. Lesson 5, The Night Visions, Solomon's Dialogue with the Divine. King Solomon's dialogue with the divine came in countless forms, one of the most intriguing being his impressive night visions. The dreams were not mere random pictures passing through his mind while he is asleep. They were deep dialogue with a higher power that was rich in wisdom and prophecy. These dreams were so important that they became the driving force in Solomon's life, determining his decisions and broadening his knowledge of the world. From the night visions, Solomon got revelations that seemed to bridge the world of humans and divinity. They were whispers from beyond a world of dreams that provided guidance impossible to discern in the light of day. This power to glean advice from dreams became the king's strongest weapon. It maintained that they added even more wisdom to him so that he could rule with perception that was beyond human understanding. Solomon's visions during the night demonstrated that by accessing our dreams, we unlock a door of greater insight and create new avenues in our lives. Dreams have ever been a significant part of human history and tended to act as a gateway to prophecy and wisdom. They are the treasures hidden in the unconscious beneath the waves of common thoughts. Night visions for Solomon were not mere thought wanderings. They were heavenly dialogues. They were opportunities for introspection and contacting the deeper knowledge residing within and beyond oneself. These visions highlight how turning inward can provide insight from levels of consciousness that we may rarely tap into during our waking hours. For those seeking wisdom like Solomon, engaging with dreams and intuition offers a valuable approach. By listening to our dreams, writing them down, and interpreting their significance, we can also tap into a source of wisdom. It is a means of allowing more elevated guidance into our lives, pointing us along the paths most well-suited for us. Dream journals, for instance, can be like a master key unlocking these underlying messages so patterns and insights may come forward in a way that surprises us. Dreams are not merely reflections but also can be teachers that help us navigate through decisions and dilemmas. They can be nurtured and worked with that reveal personal truths or even universal wisdom. By learning to interpret and listen to dreams, we pay tribute to the inner voice that communicates in symbols and imagery much in the same way that Solomon did. This exercise of working with dreams and intuition, it's a mode of tuning into the harmony of the universe like Solomon's sacred dialogues that led him through his path of wisdom and monarchy. As King Solomon received wisdom from his nocturnal visions, so can we gain wisdom above normal consciousness. Dreams link us with a bigger picture, providing us with pieces of advice that guide us on our ways if only we allow ourselves the time to hear. So as we sleep, let us keep in mind that within dreams we engage in conversations with the divine proof of Lesson 6, forbidden texts, lost books, and sequestered scrolls. In the dark world of legend and history, the figure of King Solomon finds itself frequently connected to the unknown and the mysterious. His wisdom was renowned, but tales of forbidden texts and secret scrolls haunt his reputation, pointing to a depth of knowledge well beyond the ordinary. These apocryphal writings, say some, hold the wisdom and teachings Solomon wrote himself. They are reputed to be packed with arcane lore, magic, and revelations that activate ancient powers of nature and spirit. The appeal of such literature is deep. Individuals are drawn instinctively to the prospect of gaining access to hidden knowledge that could grant them visions and abilities beyond ordinary boundaries of human life. Legend has it that Solomon, in his unparalleled wisdom, bequeathed these writings in secret, tapping into knowledges in the universe that many would not dare touch. But with such seductive knowledge comes inevitable risk. The secret scrolls, if they exist at all, are said to hold truths that have the potential to destabilize the fine balance between our world and the worlds of the spirit. The risk is not in the knowledge but in its misapplication. An open Pandora's box of knowledge that, once opened, could unleash chaos beyond what has been imagined. It is said that those who would seek to open these doors must walk carefully, for the journey is as illuminating as it is daunting. For searchers of our contemporary world, this story repeats a lesson across the ages. The pursuit of knowledge must be guided by ethical considerations. Hidden wisdom can be powerful, but it also calls for a deep sense of responsibility. The stories of Solomon remind us that while it is important to seek out knowledge, it is equally crucial to understand the boundaries that preserve the sanctity and stability of our existence. In the world of contemporary fascination, this translates into balancing our curiosity with awareness, so that our pursuit of knowledge is undertaken in behalf of a higher good. As we explore the secrets of the unknown, we can look to King Solomon's tale. It reminds us that the acquisition of knowledge is more of a path than a destination, a path that must be walked with intention and care. The temptation of the forbidden texts dares us to test our own limits and entices us to undertake wisdom in every guise while honoring the moral boundaries that protect us. Lesson 7. The Wives of Strange Gods. The fall into spiritual corruption. Solomon, who was famous for his wisdom and God-given insights, was not invincible to the intricacies of human want and political maneuvering. His marriages were not simply acts of love, they were strategic unions meant to cement the power and sway of his kingdom. Consequently, Solomon wed numerous women from other lands, many of whom worshipped other gods. Every union introduced fresh traditions, beliefs, and religious icons into his kingdom to form a mosaic of religions under his leadership. These unions, although politically advantageous in broadening his political kingdom, had deep spiritual implications. With each bride, Solomon invited not only the bride into his heart and home but her gods as well. Over time, the king who was chosen by God and blessed with unparalleled wisdom found himself straying from the path of monotheism that had been a cornerstone of his ascension to the throne. The man who once communed with the divine was now entangled in a web of idolatry and spiritual confusion. The story of Solomon's fall is a cautionary tale about the power of influence and associations. It's far too simple to be influenced by those around you, particularly if they have promises of peace, power, or joy. With Solomon, the wisdom he was renowned for didn't deter him from being tempted by foreign gods as he gradually diverted his heart from the teachings of his ancestor. The temples which he constructed in their honor were a testament to his split allegiance, eclipsing the grand temple which he had constructed for his God. Whereas most kings have employed marriage to unify their countries, the legacy of Solomon remains one of the religious hazards of such marriage. His tale serves to exemplify the value of staying close to oneself no matter what temptations or apparently good associations approach. When we permit negative influences to control our surroundings, we stand a good chance of weakening our values and forgetting what is most important. In life, we ourselves need to be careful about the influences we welcome into our own lives. In the same way that Solomon's kingdom was changed by the influence of foreign gods, we too can be transformed by the company we choose to keep. It is thus important to surround ourselves with people and forces that bring our highest good and spiritual evolution. By keeping such positive company, we are able to stay true to our principles and uphold the integrity of our personal and spiritual paths. Solomon's tale is a strong reminder of the need to balance ambition and integrity, a demonstration that wisdom does not just come from searching for power and knowledge, but also from selecting the appropriate partner. Lesson 8. The Bargain. Did Solomon give away light in exchange for hidden power? The reign of Solomon is surrounded by tales of unmatched prosperity and wisdom, but then there are some sadder stories that indicate a transition from God's favor to something more enigmatic. As a king, Solomon was not only esteemed for God-bestowed wisdom but also for his skills that appeared divine. Legend has it that Solomon perhaps made some pacts, agreements, as some might refer to them, which gave him incredible power for something that was costly to him, maybe even his devotion to clean light. Solomon's wisdom was a gift that brought him fame throughout realms, yet rumors of his pacts with forces beyond human understanding shock many. Reports of his mastery of magic, the control of elements, even commanding creatures outside the human sphere. This ability raised many to wonder if such power was really derived from wisdom or if Solomon had traded something deeper for his power. Stories of Solomon's ring and his seal, both claiming to command angels and demons, fuel speculation. Were these objects gifts for an agreement in the dark? The Bible alludes to the decline of Solomon, mentioning spiritual corruption, possibly that of these clandestine deals. King Solomon's thousands of wives and concubines from foreign nations, most of whom worshipped other gods, may have tainted him, drawing him into sin that corrupts his soul. But although some accounts describe Solomon as having made a deal with darkness, others regard these as later-year fables created to account for his otherworldly powers. People who accept such stories contend that in pursuit of knowledge and domination, Solomon possibly gave up his divine light, allowing some shadow into his life. This might account for the deviation of the wise faithful king to one that allowed idolatry and wandered away from pure faith. Solomon's story can guide us on the fine line of power and integrity. The temptation to possess hidden knowledge and abuse power outside of our natural capacity can be a slope of no return. For Solomon, a man with unimaginable wisdom already within his grasp, the urge to dip further into forbidden knowledge might have been irresistible. With such choices, though, come repercussions both in the area of spirituality and personal integrity. As we consider the stories of Solomon's pact, one would wonder at their temptations. How much do we exchange bits of our goodness and light for power and understanding? Maybe the moral here is one of carefulness with such bargains that lure us off our correct path, slyly requiring us to give up aspects of ourselves in ways we may not even completely understand. Solomon's tale walks the line between fidelity and ethical compromise, challenging us to reflect on if shadowy price for power is one really to pay. The real wisdom learned is possibly more about knowing when knowledge keeps one from light and virtue, rather than merely possessing it. Lesson 9. The Jinn and Builder Spirits, Beasts at His Command. In the stories of Solomon, if there is one component that appears to rest on the mythical, jinn and other elusive builder spirits. Solomon, wise and authoritative figure that he was thought to possess an unmatchable gift to communicate with these magical beings, tapping their powers to build Jerusalem's magnificent and awe-inspiring temple. The jinn, stereotyped as pranksters or demons in myths, were regarded in Solomon's period as beings of immense ability, capable of crossing the lines of the physical and spirit realms. Solomon's relationship with them gives vivid expression to what it is to span the worlds we occupy and those that exist outside our usual field of perception. The myths tell of a ruler who employed a powerful ring charged with supernormal powers to dominate these demons, calling them out to serve him. Though the history of this ring is unknown, its magic reflected a profound knowledge of a hidden realm in which spirits and humans not only lived side by side but worked together. Solomon's temple, thus, was not merely an architectural wonder. It was a reflection of the coming together of various worlds, symbolic of the harmony between human desire and divine power. Through Solomon's dominion over the jinn, he demonstrated that one could command great forces to achieve monumental tasks, showing that the unknown could be harnessed for the greater good. This legend also teaches the importance of intention and respect when dealing with forces beyond our immediate understanding. Solomon's mastery over these spirits came from a place not of mere dominance but of mutual respect and profound wisdom. He recognized the need to balance those energies, if not done with caution, would quickly become destructive. This wisdom can be applied to the larger story of attraction, honoring the energies we desire to bring into our lives and recognizing their ability to both create and destroy. As we examine Solomon's narrative, there is a deeper lesson of balance between power and humility. The jinn and builder spirits during his ages built marvels not only due to the sheer power Solomon possessed but also because he knew the nuances of managing and communicating with these spirits. The history of the jinn is a metaphorical map for contemporary seekers. It guides us on how to channel our inner energies effectively by building, creating, and manifesting while remaining aware of the reciprocal force of nature and spirit. In the modern pursuit of wisdom and power, Solomon's legend teaches that dominion over external elements begins with mastery of the internal self, urging us to hold both reins with a light but firm grip, ensuring balance and harmony. Lesson 10: The Dark Arts of Wisdom, Alchemy, Astrology, and Magic of the Wise King. Solomon, known for his legendary wisdom, was a king whose mind extended beyond rule. Accounts reveal he ventured into mystic domains that drew him closer to the universe's hidden order. An interest in alchemy, astrology, and magic is said to have steered his understanding of the world's secrets. Alchemy, as a traditional science of converting crude metals into gold, represented human efforts to achieve spiritual perfection and immortality. As a virtuoso of these mystical sciences, Solomon realized the transformative power lying in the pursuit of knowledge, converting base instincts and ideas into the pristine forms of wisdom and enlightenment. Astrology also featured prominently in Solomon's search for knowledge. This old science, which relates the movement of the star with human destiny, was deemed a science in his era. With it, Solomon may have understood the oneness of the cosmos and world, observing patterns and cycles beyond common minds. This insight not only gave predictive ability but also a deep understanding of the human condition in the universe. Therefore, astrology might be regarded as a compass for Solomon, which aids in deciding and acting and, as a result, shows how receptivity to cosmic forces can begin to bring one's life course into alignment with cosmic realities. Solomon's magic was not just about incantations and spells, but sounded more as divine wisdom. Magic used in this context transcends mere tricks, reaching into the divine to change reality on a conscious level. His alleged powers of communicating with angelic and demonic beings demonstrated an insight that real power lies within the equilibrium between light and dark, good and evil. The equilibrium of magic and wisdom, with knowledge being the light to guide the darkness, was of essence during Solomon's time, when invisible powers were more seen as the gateway to genuine wisdom. In delving into the dark arts of wisdom, Solomon modeled the mind's ability to transform. For those who wish to follow his path, the lesson is not in literal interpretation of these arts but in their metaphorical lessons. Alchemy reflects personal transformation, astrological guidance suggests falling into line with greater cosmic rhythms, and magic represents the energy of intention in bringing into being one's want. As wisdom seekers seek to find their way in life's intricacies, they may take these arts as vehicles to unlock potentials latently within. Tapping into the dark arts of wisdom takes fortitude in venturing into the darkness of the unknown and discovering from it. It is to seek truths that exist beyond common sense perception and looking within to derive understanding from the most neglected recesses of inner awareness. Solomon's quest through these mystical realms instructs that with wisdom, the acquisition of knowledge changes, turning from the amassing of more and more to increasing and deepening in the self. By the same courses of investigation and contemplation, individuals today may approach and come nearer to understanding and controlling their own realities, not through the blind accident or passing whim, but through educated wise intention. Lesson 11: The Curse of Knowing, When Wisdom is a Burden. King Solomon's wisdom was unmatched, revered by monarchs and commoners alike who traveled from far lands to gain from his wisdom. But with much wisdom came a weighty burden equally as deep. Solomon's heightened sensitivity of the world and its complex ways launched journey into knowing that bordered on mere awe, crossing over towards heaviness. To know so intimately meant to look into the heart of man, observing both the ugliness and the beauty with acutely vivid intensity. For Solomon, the curse of knowing was not in gaining wisdom, but in the weight it brought to his soul. At the heart of this weight was the awareness of the limits of that knowledge. Solomon, even with his immense knowledge, was keenly aware of the things that lay outside his control. This awareness of his own limitations paradoxically may have caused an inner conflict. He knew human weakness and folly and could anticipate the results of decisions, his own and others. The grief of envisioning unavoidable consequences and the helplessness to reverse all evils imposed an emotional burden few could endure. In addition, the knowledge he held also made him distant. The understanding he had of people's fears, motivations, and wants kept him at arm's length, making real connections difficult. Friends and allies perceived in him a king and thinker beyond their understanding, and so he lived a life haunted by loneliness. Solomon witnessed not just the victories of mankind but also the pain and destroy. It is said that to know everything can be like knowing too much about vulnerability, which some have termed as a catalyst for sadness. Solomon's experience demonstrates how the pursuit of wisdom, if taken in excess, can be disillusioning. His mythical kingdom, brimming with enigmas and victories, also presented a projection of possibly inner turmoil within his own soul. The king's passion to love and care for his people conflicted with the hard realities that he inadvertently revealed through his wisdom. The deeper his comprehension, the larger the shadow of his weight bearing heavily over every facet of his reign. The lesson to be learned here from Solomon's life is the necessity to be aware of the harmony between gaining knowledge and comprehending human experience. Wisdom is a treasure if it is imparted in compassion and humility. Solomon's tale reminds us to hold on to a grounding in empathy and to take care that our wisdom does not isolate us from others. When we apply our wisdom for the common good, we enter into a realm where learning is not an individual burden but a communal journey with room for understanding and compassion. And so, Solomon's scope of wisdom, a light it has been cherished over centuries, instructs us more about navigating the human heart as an expression of the highest powers we have. Lesson 12, Buried Truths, Why Solomon's Complete Story Was Concealed. The tales of King Solomon have filled minds with wonder and mystery for thousands of years. Mystery. But much of what we perceive has been influenced by accounts that have endured over time. Under the covers of religious and historical text, though, are fragments of Solomon's story that have not always been part of the approved narrative. Many have wondered why some part of Solomon's life, particularly those that brush up against the darker and more mystical aspects of his wisdom, are buried, merely alluded to in lost scrolls or whispers over centuries. King Solomon was renowned for his unparalleled wisdom, but with wisdom came exposure to deep secrets, some of which may be beyond human understanding. As a ruler who inquired deeply about many things in the world's knowledge, he came across things that would test the very foundations of his religious beliefs and leadership. He was supposed to have the power to speak with spiritual beings, tap into natural and supernatural powers, and exert unimaginable power through his fabled ring and seal. When that kind of deep knowledge and power meet with human fallibility, ethical and moral dilemmas arise. Knowledge has been controlled throughout history in order to keep power intact in society. Those who possess secret knowledge or spiritual power are able to influence the masses, change minds, and decide the course of history. Solomon's deep insight into the world and its hidden powers made him both respected and resented. He was at the crossroads of divine favor and human ambition. Solomon's wisdom holds a duality which often proves difficult to accept. On the one hand, he is the very essence of a sage king whose dynasty was characterized by peace and prosperity. On the other hand, there are legends that indicate his uncontrolled appetite for concealed knowledge drove him to routes that might have led him towards an evil that some did not want to record lest they fostered similar endeavors. In order to protect generations to come from potentially harmful endeavors, tales of darker shades were turned into whispers that were restricted to forbidden texts and inextricable allusions. Additionally, there is the aspect of the moral lessons contained within his tale, his marriages to women of different faiths, his subsequent spiritual compromises, and the political alliances that they helped shape exemplify how one's behavior can result in an abandoning of one's true direction. This is a warning story. Regardless of how smart or great, one has to tread human frailties carefully. saving his reputation without letting it explore too much the realm of occult or associations with other worldly entities may have been a deliberate attempt to ensure that the moral teachings remain central. Finally, one has to take into account the role played by other cultures and religions in shaping the interpretation of Solomon's narrative. Throughout Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, his story unfolds in varying colors, each one viewing his wisdom and mistakes through their respective religious and cultural lenses. The suppression and preservation of some details about his life may be an indication of the moral and spiritual values each wanted to transmit. King Solomon's tale with its expansive vistas of morality, religion, and supernatural visitation still captivates us by what is spoken and what remains unspoken. Every tale buried or unearthed presents lessons to be gleaned, reminding us to look into the shadows that accompany wisdom and the burden of knowledge. Last lesson, King Solomon's dark secrets. So, now the curtain has been drawn back, and what was locked in ancient scrolls, spoken in shadowy places of mysticism, and hidden under holy titles has been recalled. King Solomon was more than a wise man. He was a man who wove the edge of the holy and the perilous. He was granted access not just to heavenly knowledge but to forces that few have ever even handled without being destroyed. His tale is not one of unadulterated perfection but of multifaceted sovereignty, a sovereign who reached heaven with one finger and lorded over the shadows with the other. That is why his legacy persists not merely in religion but in ritual, in esoteric traditions, and in the subterranean architecture of power itself. Because Solomon, more than anyone who came before him, demonstrated a truth that not many were willing to believe, that there always comes great temptation with great wisdom and that true power more severely tries the soul than weakness could ever hope to. What you have heard is not so much the story of a man. It is a reflection held before those who desire knowledge, power, and spiritual leadership in life. The spirits, the seals, the symbols, they are more than myths. They are archetypes still reverberating through consciousness for those who know how to remember. The further down into truth you journey, the further you will have to face the shadows it casts. So accept what you've learned, not as information, but as warning and as invitation. Utilize it not to dominate the world but to domestic yourself. Because in the end Solomon's greatest temple wasn't constructed of stone, it was human soul, trained and enlightened.